Hello and welcome. I'm the Restless Kaiser.
And I'm Woolly Mike, but together we are
Modelling for
Advantage.
Well, there we go.
Yep.
Nailed it, mate. So, Team Yankee World War III starter set, or in fact, he doesn't even say Team Yankee on it. It says World War III starter set.
Yeah.
I think that's possibly to distinguish it from the Team Yankee World War III set that came out before, which looked very similar to this, but in fact didn't have infantry in it.
It didn't.
It had some different vehicles. What comes in the box, Wooly?
The American force, one M1A1 Abrams tank as your headquarters, a tank platoon of two M1A1s, and an infantry platoon. You get 4 M249 SAW teams, squad assault weapon, 3 M47 Dragon teams, anti-tanks, and 4 M2 Bradley infantry fighting vehicles.
So that's the Yankee Doodle Dandies.
Yes.
So that's what, 7 bases of infantry, 4 APCs and 3 tanks.
Yep.
The Sovietskis.
Headquarters, 1 T-80.
Oh, nice tank.
Tank platoon, 3 T-80s.
I noticed that that's one more than the Americans.
It is. The infantry platoon is 4 AK-74 teams, 3 RPG-7 teams, 4 BMP-3 infantry fighting vehicles.
The BMP-3. So this is quite modern, then, this stuff. This is new stuff, BMP-3. Yep. I mean, everything I say is modern. It's all pre-collapse of the Soviet Union, but relative to the Soviet arsenal, T-80s, BMP-3s, new.
Late Soviet, yeah.
Late Soviet.
So along with those forces, you get a complete A5 rulebook, a quick start guide, 8 unit cards, and 20 dice.
Very nice. Let's go. So this is a versus set. This is a starter set. They do a few different types of boxes, don't they? They do platoon boxes, which is like usually 5 of a vehicle type. They do army deals, which is a mixture based around a theme. And then they do these 2-player versus sets. This one has been updated. The other one was quite recent, the Team Yankee one, but they've recently done hard plastic infantry. It's very new to them. And this set, I think, retails for £60. We'll double check that. It'll come up on the screen. And it's designed, as I say, as a 2-player thing. We're going to sort the sprues out and we'll be right back. All right. So first contents you get in this box is on the box.
It's on the box. American tokens.
And Soviets on the other side.
Sovietsky, so you can cut those out.
So there's you need some sort of marker to know that a unit is bailed out or pinned down or something like that. They've put them on the box. Same with their objective tokens. Obviously, once you're serious about the game, you're going to buy nicer versions of these. But at least they've provided you something.
Yeah.
This is a have a try of our game set is what it's intended to be. Your little booklet.
Start here. Gives details of Combat Team X-Ray.
Combat Team X-Ray, very nice. And then the build instructions.
Detailed instructions of the vehicles and an easy guide on how to put the infantry onto the relative bases. So rather than mix and match, it gives you a nice straightforward.
Yeah, and when we look at the infantry sprue, we'll talk about this in more detail. So again for the Soviets.
And then we have an exploitation tank company.
Exploitation, ooh.
And again, nice instructions for the 2 vehicles and how to put the infantry together. And of course, because it's a starter set,
what do you do next?
Go next.
Does it tell you to buy an army deal, or does it tell you to buy box platoons?
It tells you to buy an army deal on the back, which I believe
you buy an army deal on the back, yeah. From the Modelling for Advantage website at modelingforadvantage.co.uk. All right, other bits that come in here. It's 2-player versus set. They give you 20 dice, 10 blue, 10 red. They're reasonable weight to them.
They're nice solid ones. I actually use them in quite a few games now because they're a nice solid.
Yeah, so they don't have the hammers and sick. If you want like the stars and stripes and stuff, they do make dice for those units, but they are in the blue 4, red 4, or is that home 4 and op 4? Anyway, yeah, you've got some dice, and they're not cracker dice. They're usable dice. Absolutely,
but they're not green.
But they're not green, so he doesn't like them. A basis for your infantry. Little baggie here with some dudes in. The two very different types here. So the Soviets basically have the same crew uniform that they had in World War II. So you get the hard plastic World War II tank commander sprue, whereas the American crew, the helmet in particular, and the goggles are very different from the World War II. So these ones are actually made in a material called Cyocast, Different companies use it. Warlord resin is this. Ultracast from PSC is the same stuff. This, because this is a starter set, I think it's worth pointing out. This stuff is not plastic, it's plastic-like. So soft plastic glue, those kind of plastic cements, does not work on this. You're going to need to use a CA glue or super glue, as we would call it. But you have enough guys here to have every single vehicle commander up. Or not for the Soviets. They've got 8 vehicles and 6 guys.
Yeah.
All right. The Americans have got enough for, but I only ever put the unit leader in.
Only the unit leader, just for show. And
yeah, absolutely. That's the first set of extra bits, and then elsewhere in the baggie. I'm conscious. We see so many of the. Oh no! I've ripped the Ziploc bag. Look, trying to get it open. I'm just so manly.
Yeah. So bicep braces you've got.
Yeah. You get a full A5 version of the rules. This is literally the full rules set, just reproduced in A5. I know because I've got a copy and I've compared it. The rules are... If you've never played Team Yankee, World War III or Flames of War, their rules are a bit more involved than some, but they are very well indexed and they're very well scaffolded. When you need to look up a rule, you can find it, because their rules are rules. It's not half a page of fluff with a rule hidden in it somewhere where it tells you about the philosophy of anti-tank rules or whatever. The rules are rules, not fluff plus rules.
And back page does have a turn sequence.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's also, before that is a proper index of all the terms. And they do have fluff. The fluff is at the beginning, which is telling you a little bit about its World War III setting and where it goes. So that's the rule book. We don't normally talk about it much because they give them away and everything, but obviously this is a starter set. I'm appreciating some of you will be watching this thinking, do I want to try Team Yankee? So we're approaching it from that angle. What we're going to do, I think, is we're going to compare each of the units so that will hopefully give you an idea as potential players. So when we'll talk about the Soviet tank, then we'll talk about the American tank, we'll talk about the infantry at the same time as one another. So hopefully you can get an idea of how those things, what the balance is like in this box. Because it is a starter box. This is going to be most people's first experience of Team Yankee. And we're wondering about whether it will be a good one. Should we start with the headquarters? So we're already going to start to see some differences, I think. So the US headquarters is...
The Armoured Combat Team, Team Yankee.
The Armoured Combat Team. Yeah. All right, okay. An Armoured Combat Team consists of 1 Abrams HQ, 1 tank platoon, and 1 Bradley mech platoon. So I think this is a unique formation to this box.
Yes.
Because the actual formations would have a much longer list than this and many more options. So, which is interesting because it's telling you then out of the box exactly how you want to play without any ancillary fluff that's just complicating matters.
Yep.
So your headquarters could be 1 or 2 Abrams, or in this instance it's going to be 1, and it's 14 points, which is quite a lot of points. And it's 14 points. Well, we'll talk about the numbers when we compare the two, the stats. So let's talk about the sprue first.
So it makes a couple of variants of the M1A1s.
At least 4.
Yeah. So if you're new to this, you've got a lower tub, which you put your 2 tracks on. They're keyed so they can only go on one way.
All the track, the running gear, the whole thing is moulded in a single piece. And as a design feature where they've got better at with the later ones, is it's the tracks connect to the sprue on the inside of the track, which means if you do any damage to the track when you cut them off, you've got to sand it down and stuff. It's not on the trackpad that you can see, it's on the bit of the trackpad that's underneath the tank.
Yeah, so glue the tracks to the tub, then you glue the upper hull. That's there. There's a couple of little extra add-on bits for running gear that are quite small, depending on whether you have the full side skirts or no side skirts. So if you've got side skirts, then we've got the turret,
which you assemble separately.
2 pieces,
and then stick the gun in. Is the gun attached to the mantler? No.
No.
So the gun is in two parts. The gun fits into a mantler. The mantler fits into the turret. The turret's in two parts, and you stick a open or closed commander's hatch.
Barrel options, so you need to be sure which model you're building.
Yes, and it's telling you to build this particular, it's the M1A1 Abrams with the 120mm gun, and the instructions in there, I'm sure, will tell you which of the guns it is that you're going to pick, because different versions, I think it's only the M1 that's got the smaller gun.
Yeah. So in this case, the two barrels, one of them's a smooth barrel and the other's got a smoke extractor.
Yeah, a fume extractor.
So like a big lump halfway down that draws the fumes out of the tank. There are two different stowage come bar armour options. Again, one's for the earlier tank, one's for the later tank. So you need to be sure of those.
And in terms of assembling the model, that's where the model does start to get fiddly around those kind of, there's like these rails around the outside of the turret, and they're stowage bins and things, aren't they?
Well, they're bar armour, so against shaped charges, bazookas, and so on.
Oh, right,
as
that's
well.
Part of the philosophy, is it?
Yeah.
All right.
But they are. That's where the crew will stow most of their spare gear and other tank equipment.
Yeah, it's backpacks and blankets and bedrolls and all that kind of stuff, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So and then there's a couple of random bits of storage box that you can put on. Can I just check the instructions just if it does definitely tell you which one to make? Yeah, it does, and it shows you want to use the one with the fume extractor. Yeah. And it is showing you it's the longer, so of these, it's the longer
side
panels that you want to be using on this, and you can tell that from the side. It looks involved. It does actually kind of hook into the right places on the tank.
Yeah,
it does look involved, and you might worry that it doesn't all fit together.
There are little tabs on the side of the turret which will lock into.
Yeah, which it'll lock into. But it is important to say, if you've played Flames of War, not Team Yankee, the vehicles are bigger, and there's more to them. The kits are a bit more involved. Most of the modern kits, the vehicles in particular, they're a lot taller, and there's a lot more things like reactive armor and things. So there's, whereas you might be used to a 6 or 8 piece tank in Flames of War, you're more looking at 12 plus in a Team Yankee one. They're still, I would say, they're Wargamers kits, not modeling kits, but they are a bit more involved. And you're going to feel that straight away with the Abrams. That turret assembly is a bit more involved.
You come with the option of an open or closed commander's hatch. As we said, your lead tank will have the commander out. It does come with 30 cal and 50 cal machine guns. Would recommend not, if this is a test game and it's your first few games, I'd leave them off because they are quite fragile. It does give you 2 of each.
Yes.
But
he's not saying you're going to do anything wrong in terms of the game. He's saying that they're going to snap off.
Yeah.
They are keyed on the places that they go into the hull, but they are quite fragile because they're external to the tank. I put mine on. Some of them break off.
Yeah.
That's just the way that it goes. Your mileage may vary. Definitely, your storage solution is going to be a big part of that. But if you're going to be playing this with your kids or anything like that, you're just wasting your time. In my school, our kids come up, look at the game, and then try and find out if these things are loose, and then just pull them off, and then say sorry and walk away.
Yeah,
they are a bit more involved, but it does build up, and it's a very nice looking vehicle. It looks like a tank, doesn't it?
It's a beefy old tank when you see that slab-sided turret and the sort of like the low profile.
Yeah. You're definitely right in the modern era, aren't you? That's an older kit. So what's that? I can read the date on that. 2015. There's a bit more reading, so I'm going to switch glasses now. So the Sovietsky, and you get 3 of them. One for the headquarters and 2 for the platoon. The Soviets get a T-80 shock company. So again, this is a unique card. It's saying it's got 1 HQ, 1 platoon, and 1 motor rifle platoon. So again, in a it would be a battalion normally with the Soviets. This card would be full of other options. So this is just to get you out the door. you can only take a single tank in this headquarters, which is interesting. As a kit, this is much newer. This is a
2020.
2020, okay. I'm old enough to feel 2020 is new. This is a new kit to me. This is simpler than the American tank in terms of number of pieces. It is, I love the look of it. I love the gills on the side of it, which is the explosive reactive armor that are built onto it, because this is the last tank built by the former Soviet Union. It was their replacement for T-72. Many thousands of them were made, mainline tank. But the difficult part about this assembly-wise is the turret, in that you've got these little grooves here, and into them go these tiny pieces here, which are the smoke launchers. I know why they've done that, because they molded the smoke launchers on some of the earlier turrets and they just don't look very good. It's the way injection molding works. So I know why they've done it separately. But that is possibly the fiddliest piece I have added. Maybe the bow machine gun on a Panzer IV is a little bit more faff than this. But it's that level of fiddliness.
The Panther, because you've got to get it the right way up as well.
Right, yeah. Some of the German bow machine guns, which are like really thin. These are not thin pieces, they're not weak pieces. They're just quite small to get a hold of. But actually, at least you're putting them somewhere quite exposed. It's much worse on like the T-64 and the T-72 because they're not... Here, you're just seeing the bit that's poking through the ERA. On those, they're actually at the bottom of the turret, pointing outwards. But that's the only difficult bit on here. There's also somewhere on here, there is a wading... Yeah, this bit of pipe here goes on the back. Check the instructions. This is a snorkel for wading. Because the Soviets were really big on amphibious doctrine, and some of their vehicles floated, and others just had a massive tube that they reckoned the dudes could breathe with. If you cross the river quickly enough so the engine doesn't flood, you'll be all right.
There was a recent video on the Tank Museum's site, and it was a former East German tank driver, and he was talking about the T-64, the T-72 and the T-80, and before they would go into the water they practiced the evacuation drill.
Right.
Because 9 times out of 10 they would have to evacuate the tank if they tried snorkeling.
Right.
Because they'd always miss somewhere of the
in terms of the waterproofing. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of those things though, isn't it? Is that these at a high level, these are built for a major conflict, for an existential conflict, a literal battle of ideologies fought across the globe. And under those circumstances, most of the vehicles you'll be using will be quite new, because you get through the ones you had at the beginning, and then that stuff will probably work. Whereas what you've actually got now, there's lots of stuff that's been in depots for 30 years, unused, and a lot of that stuff isn't going to. Seals are going to have gone all over the place, as silverfish or whatever have eaten them.
Yeah, because the Russian doctrine was if they attacked the West, the bridges either they've destroyed the bridges or the...
Absolutely, and so, World War II was really dominated by big rivers and bridges. So
all of their stuff is designed to wade.
Yeah.
But if you read the fiction, like Harold Coyle's book Team Yankee, the Russians want to wade the rivers, but the Germans reinforce the banks, so they're not nice.
They're not slope banks. They're concrete
almost
walls.
Canals.
Yeah.
So the doctrine was sound, except that the Germans inadvertently countered it.
Yeah, but unintentionally. So how do the two vehicles compare then? So what is going to be like as a new player? The M1 Abrams. So you've got a front armor of
19.
And the T-80's got a 20, so slight advantage for the Russians there. Side is 10 in each case. Top armor is irrelevant in this box, but they've got one. All right. We're both hit on 4s. A lot of the Soviet equipment is not hit on 4, it's hit on 3. So what these shock represent, there's multiple tiers, we've talked about this before, of the Soviet armed forces, but there are certain units which are volunteers or conscripts in their second year of conscription are considered the best.
Category A, they're listed as.
Because they've had a year, they're in the army for 2 years, compulsory. In the second year, they know what they're doing and they're still young and they're not jaded and all that kind of stuff. And so they're rated as generally as good as Western troops. Whereas the rest of it is normally, with the bulk of the army is the rest of it, is normally hit on 3s. So in that respect, slight advantage for the T80. What about firepower? What's your anti-tank rating?
My M256 120mm gun firing 100 centimeters has a anti-tank of 23.
Interesting. So you beat me by 2. Beat me by 3.
By 3.
By 3. Well, interestingly, the 125mm 24A6 gun has got a 22, so it beats you by 3. So the tank on tank, this is a comparable tank. They both hit each other on 4s and have +3 armor. Firepower in both cases is going to be +2.
Yeah.
Now the difference you're going to see though is in the rate of fire. The T80 uses an autoloader, and what everybody knows about autoloaders, well, not only does it tend to kill the crew when you get hit, that is a real problem with an autoloader, not a factor of this game.
Yeah.
Is that the rate of fire is lower than having a dedicated loader, because the pan has got to rotate to find the right shell, and you're not necessarily got the right things ready. It's not that it's slow to load, but a guy who's ready with the next round and knows where it is quicker. So we have a 1 and 1 halting and moving rate of fire, whereas the Abrams has
2 and 2.
2 and 2. So the Abrams kicks out twice. So the Soviets may have an extra tank, but the Americans have got double the shots. They've got these extra rules here, and most of these extra rules, like laser rangefinder and so forth, they say these modern tanks have got good optics and equipment, so they don't pay long range penalties, and they don't pay night fighting penalties, and things like that. That's what those things mostly mean. So tank versus tank, there's a definite advantage for the Americans, which is a real difference from the previous starter box, because in the previous starter box it told you to build the IPM1, which is the one before this, and it's got the smaller gun.
Yeah.
And it can't deal with T80. Mobility wise, they've both got tactical move 14.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other numbers are giving up shooting, which you largely wouldn't do. So tanks, interesting. Soviets got an extra body, Americans, so 3 until you get 6 shots versus 4 shots. If all guns are bearing, round 1. Interesting.
Support vehicles.
The support vehicles. We are now talking about the Bradley, M2 Bradley, versus the BMP3.
So the Bradley infantry fighting vehicle. Wonderful thing called a Bushmaster cannon.
Bushmaster cannon, indeed.
Yeah, somebody described it as it's the land-based version of the A10 cannon.
Isn't it 20 rather than 30 mil? 25 mil.
But it does this.
It's a modern autocannon, a huge improvement on firepower over the M113, which had a machine gun. Whereas this thing is a genuine autocannon. But let's talk about the kit then, for those.
So again, we've got the tub, which you put your 2 tracks onto. The upper body and the rear hull then go on. Yeah. 2 different versions of side skirts.
Yes. Now this is the M2 rather than the M3, so I don't think it's not the up armoured one.
Yeah, so it's the standard one, and the other one's got some reactive armour.
Yeah, and you'll see on there.
So you've got the standard side skirts and then reactive armour side skirts. Yeah. You build the 1 turret option on this, but you do have the missile launcher that goes on the side of it as well. Easy and straightforward kit, this one. It went together so quickly. Yeah. Because obviously I've got a copy of this at home, and I've built these. This is a nice easy kit. If you start with this one before you do some of the tanks, yes, then you'll be well on your way. Yeah, a lot less small parts in it. Yeah, I was just trying to think where the way the sides go on is a little bit funny, because you put the
because it's layered, isn't it?
Yeah.
You put the tracks on, and then you put the sides on, which cover part of the tracks.
But on the inside, the whole side, there is a groove and slot. So again, you can't put them in the wrong.
You get it, yeah. And the same with the tracks and the running gear.
Yeah, they're keyed.
Again, they're keyed. So although there's a few parts, but in the instruction it's telling you it is the M2 Bradley rather than the M3 Bradley, which is interesting because this is a later force. But it's probably to do with balance in the set, because there's definitely an advantage with the Americans in the tanks. So with these, it's telling you to build the older pattern Bradley, and it does. The M3, if you go to their website, you'll find the instructions. It's all there on this kit if you wanted to make M3s, but you're not going to have a stat card for it. And so it just looks a little bit leaner. It's a curious vehicle, the Bradley. It's obviously built in response to the first BMP. It takes them a long time. They go through myriad options about what they're going to do, but that vehicle is still in service and still providing good service. They're very happy with it. They've built many thousands of them. And what's it? It's 1970s it comes out?
The first version, yeah.
So you're talking about a vehicle that's been in service through iterations almost 50 years.
But one of the things about, because the Bushmash, the cannon is so compact, most of that is in the turret. So it's still got a reasonable troop carrying capacity. Whereas what you're going to be fielding
is the BMP3. So the BMP3 then is much more modern than the Bradley. This is again a relatively new sprue.
2020 again.
2020, same generation as the T80. Really simple kit. Like the tanks you might build with them, they've got this kind of lower canoe to which you attach your tracks and running gear, which again are keyed. And then you put, I think with this one, you need to build up the back before you put the top on. It's a bit funny, the way that works. It's all perfectly straightforward. The turret, you have a lower piece here, and then an upper piece sticks on top of it. You choose your commander open or closed hatch. It's got these, we talked about the smoke launchers. So these ones they've decided to mold, because they're very small on this, they're actually molded on the lower piece, which is closer to being in line with the plane. But you can see in doing that, the fidelity is lower. But they're smaller and they're more hidden, so they're okay. But you can see why they might not do that with the other ones. There's this, depending on what you're doing, there's this other funny little bit here, and I'm trying to remember.
It's the missile guidance and
lights.
Infrared.
Yeah.
It's a very it's the only fiddly piece on this kit.
And I was trying to remember where it was. It goes somewhere in here above, sort of around where the mantlet would be.
Yeah, there's quite a solid mounting point, but it's a very small piece, and getting it the right.
It's handling the piece. It's not it's not positioning it, and just because of the shape of it, it's actually got a big keying point in this. But it's a funny shape and it's quite fragile. So be careful in removing it from the sprue, and look carefully at which bit of it is it and not sprue. But if you try and file it down and things like that, there's a very real chance you'll break it. I would clean it up after I mounted it.
Yeah.
Get it in position, because it's a bit more sort of structurally sound rather than held in your fingers trying to file it. So yeah, it wasn't like an impossible challenge, but it was the only bit of this kit that was a bit more involved. But that was the BMP3.
Yeah.
It's as big as the tank. The BMP3, or pretty much, which is definite difference again between your NATO forces versus your Soviets. Your Soviet tanks are small, and one of the things they've done by having autoloaders is they've got rid of a guy to try and get more space in a tank. But they also have a philosophy of recruiting small guys.
Yes. You
don't get to drive a Russian tank because you're too big. We got a country with hundreds of millions of people in it. We can train, and we're going to conscript them. We can take the short guys and train them up to work in tight spaces.
Yeah, I've driven the Carnation, the Grodzika,
right,
self-propelled gun, and that had to have the seat. Even my shoulders are out of the top of it. There was no way I was getting down into that in a closed position.
Yeah.
Top trumps.
Top trumps. All right then. Tactical move.
10.
Same. Most vehicles have got tactical move 10 unless they've got advanced stabilization equipment. All right. Hit on 4.
Hit on 4.
Courage 4.
Yep, all standard.
All the same. These actually got a skill of 3.
Oh.
Although I'm not sure you ever make a skill. Well, no, you would for like an orders test.
Yeah.
So actually, because there's a shock, they're saying that the BMP crews are better than the American crews, which is interesting. Armor-wise, the BMP's front is 5.
3.
Big advantage there. Gun-wise, I'm sure that it's better because the BMP3's got 2 guns.
So my M242 25mm Bushmaster cannon.
Yes.
60cm range. Halted and moving rate of fire 3. Anti-tank 8.
Anti-tank rating of 8. So an anti-tank rating of 8 can't go anywhere near my tanks. Front armor of 5, so you can damage the front armor of this, and the side armor is 3, so comfortably. And you're getting 3 shots, whether you're moving or stationary.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, the BMP3 is an interesting vehicle because it's got a 100mm smoothbore gun, which would be a big cannon by World War II standards. That's a bigger gun than the Tiger has. Now, it's not as long, although it's still pretty long. And coaxially with that is a 30mm autocannon. The 100mm smoothbore gun can fire 1 halted, 1 moving at a range of 24. But like the tanks, they can put a missile up the tube, and the missile's got an anti-tank power of 21.
I've got a TOW-2 missile on the side of my turret with a range of 48 inches and a firepower, so anti-tank rating 23.
So we both got a missile.
Yep.
This one's got a missile with an anti-tank rating of 21, and you've got a tow missile with
23.
23. That's a bit grim, because 23 goes through my front armor of my tank of 20 quite comfortably.
Yeah.
Whereas mine 21 has got a harder time of getting through your 19. So you beat me by 3, and I beat you by 2 in the missile game against the tank, so that's not great. My 30mm cannon, however, which I could choose to fire, only got 20-inch range. Is that the same as yours?
My
Your cannon?
24 for the Bushmaster.
Oh, you got 24, so you outrange me.
Yeah.
And I've got 3 and 2, so a lower rate of fire, but I've got anti-tank power of 10. So this 30mm cannon goes straight through the Bradley from the front, which is interesting. And I have got 4 of them, and you've got 4?
I've got 4, yeah. So in terms of the infantry we'll be coming to next, each of mine carry 2 stands.
Yeah, I think APCs are standard carry, or IFVs carry 2. Passengers can carry 2 teams.
Yeah.
So again, then our vehicles, my IFVs comfortably outfight the Bradleys, but the Bradleys are much better at destroying the tanks, which is interesting because it means the Soviets were already a bit down on the tanks in terms of the tank v tank, because you had more shots and less tanks.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of asymmetry there, and I like that. I don't dislike symmetrical starter boxes, but I'm almost immediately finished with them. It's like, okay, I played a symmetrical game, I learned how your game worked, I now don't want to play another symmetrical game. So the fact that they're asymmetrical, that was the vehicles. Talk about the infantry now. This is 2024. This is brand new, this sprue. Seen it recently. They had metal infantry, which was very nice, but these new plastic sculpts are beautiful. They really are.
They are, very.
I'm not sure, on the card, does it say you've got M4s? Oh no, it doesn't actually say what the rifle is, does it? Because these look a bit more M16-y.
No, they're not M16.
No.
The Marine sprue that came out at the same time has the M16s. I think these are the new...
The M4?
M4 carbine type thing.
Yeah.
Or assault rifles, yeah.
Okay. So this infantry sprue is going to make your infantry. Nice poses. And on here, the way that Flames of War and Team Yankee do their infantry bases And what they call them is they tend to call them by the most powerful weapon on the base. So yes, there's a lot of riflemen on the base, but it'll call these SAW teams.
Yeah.
And although they're basically rifle teams, because a couple of the guys on here are going to have the SAW. And how are you going to spot the SAW? Has it got a box magazine or something?
Where the guy's hefting it.
Oh, yeah, and it also says SAW on him. All right, so probably, and there's a bit more information in here about how you do that. It's going to tell you exactly how to build the base, because the SAW teams should have a SAW, a law, a guy with a grenade launcher, and a guy. Oh, just say
they are M16s, yeah.
They are M16s. So the SAW is the squad automatic weapon, which is basically a rifle with an assault rifle with a longer barrel and a lot more ammunition.
Yeah.
Like a box magazine, those kind of things. The law is the light anti-tank weapon. The GL is a grenade launcher.
Yep.
Well, this long grenade launcher. And the M16 is just a regular rifleman. So those would be like your standard rifle bases, of which you're going to make 3. And then you've got some dragon teams.
Yeah. They've done a nice thing. The guy kneeling down with the dragon, or it's a shoulder-held, large diameter recoilless rifle type rocket launcher. So don't stand behind these things.
Absolutely, yeah. So the dragons themselves are separate, and again, I
know they're the spares. But if you look on the sprue, half of the guy. So there's the one half of him's there.
Oh yeah.
And the other half of him's over there.
Right, they've moulded him in 2 halves to get the fidelity, and it's got a mount. Yeah, so it's resting on the ground. Yeah.
Yeah, and as you can see, the one he's holding, the rear tube end is still on.
Right.
It's basically like little big rubber hex. The old pencil rubbers you used to push on the end.
Yeah.
It's got like 2 of those.
Yeah.
You take the front one off, put it into the launcher set, fire it, then you discard the tube, and then put the next tube into the launcher set.
Okay.
So you've got the firing mechanism, the aiming mechanism, and the bipod are the main weapon, and then the tubes just plug onto it. So one guy carries the weapon, and the other carries the spare tubes.
Right. I see. Yeah. So that's really clever the way they've done that. Isn't it? So is there a second one on here? So
if you look at your picture there, yeah, there's a team in motion.
There's one moving. Yeah. Right. Yeah, love this. And these are spares just to decorate the base.
Yes.
These ones are just to decorate the base. Lovely. So that's how you make those. So if you're new to this, Flames of War, Team Yankee, Battlefront, they've done some really good things with their infantry. They've made some beautiful metal infantry, but these new plastic ones are better. But also their bases. If you see that this base has got little holes, circles in it, they're the kind of pudding base at the base of them, and they're different variety. There's different arrangements of the holes, and it just means you have to put very little effort in to make them look like they're skirmishing, to make them look like they're in a mixed formation. They look good. You don't have to worry about them coming out looking like Napoleonics, even though they're quite close together. They've got the right amount of space on the base, but they do expect their teams to be on specific bases. So your unit leader and your SAW teams on this one, whereas your dragon teams go on these little 2-man ones.
As this is a starter set, the overall platoon commander would normally be a slightly different base, but we're putting 4 men to each base on this one.
That's in Flames of War. In Team Yankee, usually one of the standard bases is so that's, if you played Flames of War, you're used to a unit leader being on a 3-figure base. I think it's because in Team Yankee there are so many more weapons at squad level that 3 models can't hold all of the required weapons that are carried in a HQ team. Because it's just a cosmetic difference putting it on that base. Because usually in a 4-man team, there's an automatic weapon, there's an NCO, as in like a SAW, there's an anti-tank weapon, and there's an officer, and that's already 4 people.
Yeah.
You know, as well, and a radio guy. So, and one of the things that's definitely happened with armies is the tail of Western armies, as in the number of men that are not combat troops or not frontline combat troops. In that sense, the number of people has just got bigger and bigger and bigger over time. More and more people, and therefore there's much more capability down right at that low level. That even like your basic infantry squad has got 2 different types of anti-tank weapon. A really portable one, which is in this case is the Law, which is it's a fairly lightweight tube to just carry around, and the Dragon is a dedicated proper anti-tank weapon. All right, and even like you said that about the parts. It's even tells you the Dragon assembly. That's very nice. Have you built any of these yet, Mike?
I haven't built them. I'm planning to, because obviously the Marine ones are going to be slightly different layout. Because you get a mix of both that sprue and a special Marine heavy weapon sprue in the Marine starter box. So the
Soviet mortar rifle. There's a lot more dudes on the sprue. The Soviets do tend to come in quite large units with a lot of riflemen. On there, though, in this starter set, it's pretty much a comparable match. In that you're going to make 1, 2, 3, 4 basically rifle stands and 3 RPG stands. So although the stats are different, now I think that means you're going to have dudes left over, because there's 32 guys on that sprue, and that's only 16. 24. So you're going to have 4 guys left over.
Well, for the first one, I noticed that there's a guy with an RPK laying down, and he's not modelled in that. So
a PKN.
PKN, yeah.
A PKN, yes. So in the Soviet ones, you're not seeing the LMGs because their doctrine seems to be different. Their PKN is their LMG with the big box drum. They come in platoons, which you don't get in this box. Although some of those models are on that sprue. So shall we have a look at how the 2 units compare? Oh, interestingly, it does give you the stats for the PKM. He didn't give you a base for it, did he? Because it's not in the instructions. Let's just have a look. Is there a large base in there? No.
No.
The card does include the stats for a PKM, and there are models on here which are PKMs, so you could make a PKM base, but it didn't give you the base. Right, so the BMP Shock Motor Rifle Company versus the M2 Bradley Platoon. Tactical move is going to be 8, both the same. Yeah. Courage is 4.
Yes.
Skill is 3.
4.
We're better, you see. Hit on 4s again.
Hit on 4s.
Infantry save is 3.
3+.
Right. Shooting then. So the rifle team has got a halted of 3 and a moving of 3. Yours the same?
Halted of 3, moving of 2.
Ooh. And those bases, mine have got the RPG 18 anti-tank, which is anti-tank 14.
The M47 Dragon is 18 anti-tank.
No, what's
the law. Sorry. The infantry law, light attack weapon, is a 12.
Yeah.
With a 5+.
Those rifle bases can fire the rifles or the law, I think. Or maybe they can fire them both as well. But the rifle bases have got anti-tank power, which is a big difference from World War II. And they've got quite a lot of it. But the thing is that anti-tank power, although it's different, they're both good enough that they will totally rip up the APCs and they will knock out tanks in the side.
Yeah.
Which is terrifying, really. Then the dedicated anti-tank weapon then. So this is the thing that can it knock out the enemy's tank? Well, mine's only got an 8-inch range, my RPG-7. What about the Dragon?
8 inches to 28.
8 to 28, so it's got a minimum range.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Rate of fire is 1.
1 halted only.
Yeah. and anti-tank 19 for mine.
18.
18. So again, neither can 19 damage the front of
No,
Abrams
because it is 19.
because it is 19. Yeah, but with an 8-inch range, I'm not going to get to fire it very often.
So it's probably worth reminding, if this is your first time looking at this, you fire your weapon and it has an anti-tank rating
Yeah.
against my armour. But I then roll a d6 and add that to my armour.
Yeah, you don't. It's not the shooter that rolls the dice; it's the shot at. Yeah. So the infantry then is very comparable. The Soviets have got a slight edge in terms of their. Oh, but they do have a downside. I hadn't seen. Now I'm looking at more of the rules. So we get 3 shots on the move, whereas you only get 2. But we have a pinned rate of fire of 1, whereas your pinned rate of fire is your moving rate of fire.
Yes.
So my pinned rate of fire, once you pin them, their rate of fire really slackens off. But otherwise, the weapons are fairly comparable. As a set, then, what do we think? What's your thoughts? I'm all keen. I'll waffle away about mine all day.
If you go back on the channel, there is a battle between you and Johnny, a battle out of the box of the original Team Yankee game, and it was a couple of M1s, Abrams, and some M60s against the T80s, and it was very, very hard for the Americans to do any damage.
And that set had told you to build the wrong Abrams.
Yeah.
The set told you to build. I think it suggested that you built the IP Abrams.
Yeah.
And the IP Abrams doesn't have the firepower to deal with it.
Yeah. So having seen that, though, that's always one of my scepticisms about Team Yankee. But seeing these new vehicles coming out and the parity is there.
This feels much better thought out, because these are also, in that one, I'm pretty sure that they were just the mainline unit cards that were given to you. Whereas this is very much a stripped down unit card. There's a lot of other options for these vehicles that they're not giving you. Like, it doesn't give you all the different versions of Abrams you could take. And it's picked the right one. It's saying, it's not concerned itself with timeline. It's saying the stats on that Abrams are a good match against the stats on a T80. Yeah? They're different, but they can fight one another. And I think that is always a danger in Team Yankee, is that if you just play a pickup game, the other guy can turn up with Leclerc's or, MacArthur 8s or something, and you've got the wrong army to face it. But these are very near symmetrical. So as a place to start, I think it's a big improvement on the previous start set.
That's why I bought this one and not the previous one.
Right, because you'd seen the previous one played.
Yeah.
The previous one had more vehicles in it, more variety. This is a nice match-up. I think you played this game a couple of times. I like the asymmetry in the role. Like, the American APCs can do something against the Soviet tanks, but they can't do a real undermatch against the Soviet APCs. So you've got that kind of like, there's a bit of a fight for the middle ground there. These forces, we looked at the points, they're about half the points of a full Team Yankee force, sort of between 50 and 60. This Soviet one is quite expensive because actually most Soviet formations are a lot less skilled than these. This is a very expensive way in terms of points to play Soviets. You'd normally be less good with a lot more bases. But I think it gives you a good start of the game, and I think it needs that. The model kits are not as easy as they could be, but if you're going to play Team Yankee, you do need to be able to. So the APCs are more involved in the World War II tanks, and I guess they're telling you that in the starter box. They're not hiding from you that the kits are a bit more involved if all you've ever done is Flames of War. And
the other thing with Battlefront going forward is that they want to be all plastic. So a lot of the older models were, you've got a lump of resin and you put a few metal bits on it. So to redo that in plastic means more pieces, but it's a far better looking product.
And they all look the same. The problem with resin and metal is it's not so rigid a material as hard plastic. Oh, really pleased with this. If you're interested in learning to play Team Yankee, I think this is genuinely the best start set they've done. It's got infantry in it which does slow the game down. But the infantry slows the game down a lot in Flames of War. What you find with Team Yankee is infantry are really dangerous to tanks, but tanks are really dangerous to infantry because all the guns have got bigger, making, being in bulletproof cover is not the defense that you might think it is. And when you've only got little platoons like this, infantry, it's just a faster paced game because the firepower's gone up on everything in Team Yankee compared to Flames of War, and the units are more capable, more multi-role. I enjoy it. I think it's a good set. Hope this review was useful, and if you're interested, you can of course buy a set from us at modelingforadvantage.co.uk. Thank you for watching.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you're still here and you're looking for ways to support the channel, there's obviously a lot of ways down in the description, but a key way is to use our affiliate links to Whaling Games and others. You buy your models from them, it doesn't cost you a penny more, and we earn a little bit of commission. Thank you.